It is cold, it is windy, and we are in Chicago. This afternoon, it's game number 3 between the St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago Cubs from historic Wrigley Field. When these two teams get together, you always have fun games, no matter where they're at in the standings. That's been the case this weekend. Friday, Darwin Barney, as the Cardinals are one strike away, he would go deep. David DeJesus would win it in extra innings. Turnabout fair play. They're 2 outs away from winning, but yet Carlos Beltran ends those thoughts with a home run to tie it. John Jay would win it with this extra base hit to drive in Matt Carpenter in extra innings. And welcome to St. Louis Cardinals baseball with my partner this afternoon, Rick Horton. I'm Dan McLaughlin. The Cardinals looking to make it 2 of 3, and they get very good news as far as the personnel front when they get to the ballpark today.
If they're going to win today, they're going to have to do it without their best player, Yadier Molina, who is out for today, maybe a day or so more. But the good news is Yadi did not have an oblique strain, and he is the player, Dan, that the Cardinals can least afford to lose.
Amazingly, Kyle Lohse has not pitched at Wrigley Field since 2009. Now, that's not saying he hasn't had success against the Cubs, because he has. But surprisingly, it's been a couple of years since we've seen him here at this ballpark.
Well, he has been a winner all season long. You would expect the same from Lohse today. He's always around the strike zone, and he always gives the Cardinals a chance to win.
Justin Germano, a right-hander, getting the start for the Chicago Cubs. Always fun here at Wrigley. We'll send it back to the studio where Jim Hayes is standing by, and it's a look around Major League Baseball after this brief timeout on Fox Sports Midwest.
First pitch is right around the corner. We head to break with some Redbird fun. Over the years at Wrigley.
Here's the pitch. Line drive, there it is! Into left field! Hit number 3,000! A run is scored! Musial around first! On his way to second!
3-1 driven into deep left field. Did he do it off of Farnsworth? He has, and the game is tied.
Deep everywhere in the outfield. Goodbye. Did he get it? You bet he did. Home run number 16.
Here's Edmonds, and he unloads. Robinho again, and he will play. A game saver by Vigna. One of the best catches you'll ever see.
Swing and hello, 4th of July. Take a ride on that knockdown pitch, big boy.
Second straight time for the National League Central Division champion.
And a high chopper. Ozzie comes up with it, throws, and they got it! Oh, what a play!
And Aaron is hit. Aaron hits Clement. Both benches have been worn.
Watch out, can't make tie it right here. Oh, there it is. Back at the wall. 7 home runs for the Redbirds today.
And so the St. Louis Cardinals, who once trailed 7-1, now are leading 9-8.
Swing! Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you by Bud Light Lime. Summer is calling. By your Mid-America Chevy dealers, the #1 selling brand in St. Louis. Find us at stlchevy.com. By Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers, #1 for quality tires and expert auto service. And by Steak and Shake. Steak and Shake, just no equal. A cool fall Sunday afternoon from Wrigley Field in Chicago. A cloudy afternoon. And just up the way, Lakeshore Drive, the Rams taking on the Bears. So it's a Chicago-St. Louis weekend here in the Windy City, as Kyle Lohse gets that big start today. Cardinals trying to make it 2 of 3.
Lohse has been so good. He's just the guy you want to pitch in a big game right now. The Cardinals have Chris Carpenter back. Adam Wainwright certainly a force in their rotation, but Kyle Lohse has been the best of the bunch.
The Cardinals will start play today at 10 games above 500. Cincinnati clinched the division yesterday, so the Cardinals are looking at the wild card. St. Louis owning right now the second wild card of the National League. Milwaukee is 2.5 games out, and then you have Los Angeles 3, and the Phillies are 4. Mike Matheny escapes with a victory yesterday. Heartache on Friday afternoon.
Well, the victory yesterday was huge, Dan, not just because the Cardinals won and pushed their wild card lead over Milwaukee to 2.5, not just because they won, but everybody else lost. And with only 10 games remaining for St. Louis, in my mind, if they win 6 of those 10, they get to that 87 mark that we talked about a week or so ago, and that should be enough to hold off everybody who's chasing them.
Mike also was talking about, as you see the umpires just arriving on the scene, that some of these guys have been in the league a long time, and he said they've never been in this position before on September 23rd. He said, I'm excited as a first-time manager. I know players that, even though they have been here a long time, they're excited. He said our fan base should be excited. You don't get this very often, he said, but in many ways we've been spoiled.
Well, there's no question about that. And for the young players in that Cardinals dugout, I think what's going to be kind of interesting is how they handle a potential celebration. There's still more games to be won to get to that point. But do you celebrate when you win the second wild card? Nobody knows. Nobody's ever won one before. So that's going to be a question mark in at least Mike Matheny's head, because he's going to be the one to make that decision.
Well, it was Adam Wainwright getting the start yesterday, went deep into the game, and he talked about the importance of the win after yesterday afternoon.
Beltran not in the lineup today, and I think they're trying to find the right formula for how often you play Carlos Beltran. Maybe 3 out of every 4 games. Not a bad solution.
It's John Jay who will lead it off. He was hitless until his RBI double into the Cardinal bullpen yesterday. Then Matt Carpenter. He'll get the start in right field with Beltran coming off the bench. Matt Holliday at 298. Alan Craig, the RBI machine, at 308. He's in the top 5 of hitting in the National League. David Freese, you just saw that feature on him, at 295. Then Skip Schumacher, his first start in this series. He'll be at second base. Tony Cruz in for the injured Yadier Molina. Pete Kozma becoming a fixture right now down the stretch at shortstop. And the pitcher Kyle Loesch. And Loesch has had an outstanding campaign at 15-3. Justin Germano. He was with the Boston Red Sox AAA affiliate earlier this year, traded for cash considerations by Theo Epstein, and he is 2-8 with an ERA over 6 now with the Cubs.
He has an extensive resume, Dan. A lot of stops along the way. His most maybe longest stop or biggest chance came with the Padres in 2007. He was in their starting rotation, and he won 7 games that year, but he has not really established himself as a winner at the big league level. He is just 10-28.
Take a look at the defense for Dale Swaim. Soriano, De Jesus, Sapelt is in right. Mather, the former Cardinal, at third. Starlin Castro, Darwin Barney, and Anthony Rizzo on the right side of the infield. Wellington Castillo. They like what they see out of him. He's behind the plate. And that's brought to you by Dobbs. Dale Swaim said before the game this afternoon that he'll decompress for a couple of weeks. His off-season home in Arizona, and then says, let's gear it up in late November, early December, and look ahead to 2013. Underway, and here's John Jay, one of the heroes from Game 2 of this series. Jay hits a high fly ball into left field. Soriano makes the catch. The wind, if you're wondering, not as strong as we saw it yesterday, and it is blowing out towards right field.
I tweeted this morning asking Cardinal fans how would they feel about extra innings again today, just for fun. About half the responses were that'd be okay as long as the Cardinals win. The other half were no way, how about a blowout? I'm not sure I can handle another extra inning game.
It's been topsy-turvy for the fans. John Mozeliak, the Cardinals GM, is on this trip. He was saying that it's been tough for him. These crucial games down the stretch. Get into postseason play, and you never know what may happen. This is Matt Carpenter, the right fielder, today.
You can talk about extra innings and the stress that goes along with that, but not nearly the stress that we all felt when Yadier Molina went down and had to come out of the game with the game on the line yesterday. And the news again is much better about Yadi, and hopefully he'll be back in the lineup in a couple of days.
They term it as back spasms, and anytime you see a guy hold his side like Molina was, you're thinking oblique, and if it's oblique, that means you're going to miss considerable time. Cardinals could ill afford to lose Yadier Molina.
He had back spasms about a month or so ago, and according to Yachty, not as bad this time. So again, the news couldn't be better.
1 ball and 2 strikes. Carpenter takes a ball, and it's 2-2. I mentioned that Germano has bounced all over the place in his career. That includes stops in Japan and Korea. Spent parts of seasons with 5 different major league teams. Carpenter lines it into center field for a base hit. I don't think there's any doubt that this guy can hit at this level. It's finding him a position every day.
Not only can he, he's doing it already. Average back up over 300 again with that base hit this center, and one of the top rookies in the National League as far as batting average is concerned. And he does not seem overmatched by anybody. And I think that is the sign of a big leaguer. He's not just hitting hanging pitches. He's hitting some good pitches like that last one.
Replay brought to you by Plaza Tire Service. And here is Holiday, who's hitting .298, 27 home runs. He's driven in 98. CB Buckner is calling the balls and strikes today. Dan Iasonia down at first. Vic Carapazza is at second. Bill Miller is the crew chief. He's down at third. Cardinals have only hit .231 during this weekend trip to Chicago.
And we noticed for the first time they're listed below the Colorado Rockies. They have identical batting averages of .271 as a team. Cardinals listed second on that list. The presumption would be that the Rockies may be percentage points ahead, but that's something they have led all season long.
Really lost in the game yesterday was Mitchell Boggs, credited with his 4th win as Jason Mott struck out the side in the 10th inning. Got credit for his 39th save, and those 39 saves from Mott are now tops in the National League. He's all by himself. Kimbrel, second-year man for the Braves, is just 1 back.
And you can throw Freeman and Rosenthal into that in terms of getting big outs in yesterday's game.
The 2-1 pitch floats in there for strike 2. Curveball is just hanging there, isn't it?
Well, he got Holiday with the change of speed on that, but if Holiday was looking for that or was back and had a chance to take a rip at that, it would have been out on Waveland.
Foul ball.
Always get confused. That's Waveland in left, Sheffield in right.
A chilly afternoon here at Wrigley Field. Be 90-degree temperatures when we hit Houston later today.
Very nice crowd today. They honored Kerry Wood before the game, and he gave a little talk thanking the Cubs fans for his years of service here and the partnership with them, and very nice moment. Had his son throw out the first pitch.
The 2-2, and Holiday waves at it, strikes out, and the first strikeout for Germano this afternoon.
Better breaking ball there, because this one went down and away on Holiday. Tough location to hit, also too close to take.
In steps Allen Craig. 3 for 9 in the first 2 games. Among the league leaders in home runs, RBIs, doubles, batting average, and now he is listed among those league leaders, qualifying with enough plate appearances.
5th in the National League, not counting Melky Cabrera, at 308, 4-game hitting streak. And he's also listed among the league leaders now with runners in scoring position. He's number 1.
Here's the 0-1 pitch. 0-2. Andrew McCutchen, now that Cabrera has been taken off that list.
McCutchen is leading the National League in hitting, and he is at 336. And as you talked about, Craig number 5 at 308. Was short lead at first by Carpenter. Another check on him. Last 10 games for Craig. He has produced. Reaches for it and lines it foul. Mentioned Kerry Wood, how he retired earlier this year. We saw him in a game against St. Louis. He was roughed up and then came back home in the interleague play against the White Sox. Came out, threw to one hitter, got him out, strikeout, and left to a standing ovation and said that was it. He's third on the Cubs all-time strikeouts list at 1,470.
You have visions of him as a young player being a 300-game winner, perhaps, although that's hard to do in today's game. It's hard to be in long enough and be allowed to pitch long enough to get that many decisions.
I did envision him being one of the all-time strikeout guys.
Yeah.
You know, he had the 20 strikeout game back in '98, and so much attention was thrust his way. He was going to be the savior. Then they matched him up with a guy like Mark Pryor and Carlos Zambrano. Greg Maddux. Check swing, and he did not go. 2-2. Cardinals with 5 players with 20 or more home runs this year. Also 5 with 70 or more RBIs. Two balls, 2 strikes. Craig rips it out to left for a base hit. Runners at first and second here in the top of the first, and the hitter will be David Freese.
Another good at bat for Alan Craig. Finally gets a pitch he can handle. He fouled off and checked his swing on a couple of pitches that were out of the strike zone, and then got one in the middle of the plate and another line drive. He gets a lot of line drives, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. And the ball is a way of just jumping off his bat. David Freese did not start on Friday. He's at 295 and he looks at a strike.
Cardinals were very patient, and we've mentioned that quite a bit lately with the development of both Alan Craig and David Freese. I think Cardinal fans may be surprised to know that Alan Craig is 28 years old and that David Freese turned 29.
Freese with a fly ball out to left. Soriano, though, is there to make the catch. Hit the ball hard, but lines out to Soriano. Cardinals strand 2. Loesch gets the start next. The Cubs lineup, it's DeJesus, Barney, and Rizzo. Soriano, Castro, and Castillo. Sapelt, Mather, and Germano.
Kyle Loesch making his 32nd start of the season. He's going to go over 200 innings, 199 already. He's been durable. He's answered the bell every 5th day, and he's provided a lot of Cardinal victories. 15-3. Very good command as well. 36 walks and 129 strikeouts.
David DeJesus will lead it off. So it's been since 2009, last time that Loesch started here at Wrigley Field. DeJesus, 4th in the National League, 362 on base percentage as a leadoff hitter, and he looks at a strike. You really look at the numbers of Loesch this year, 15-3 with that great ERA that you mentioned, Rick, and he's 1 inning away from 200. What's amazing is he's only allowed 4 hit batsmen, only 36 walks, no wild pitches, which is amazing in itself when you're at 200 innings, and opponents only hitting 237 against him. So a lot of numbers to take in, but what it does tell you is that his control has been terrific this year.
Yeah, so no base runners via the hit, but not a lot of extra base runners either. And he has been a guy that makes things happen quickly each inning. He has low pitch count per inning. I mean, that helps him get deeper into games. That always helps out the bullpen. And I've noticed that Loesch's stuff, what he brings to each and every game, has been more consistent this year than any other year we've seen it.
Ground ball to the right side, and Craig will underhand to Loesch, and that's how he started for Kyle. De Jesus retired. It brings in Darwin Barney. It's Holiday, Jay, and Carpenter in the outfield. Along the infield this afternoon, Freese, Cosma, Schumacher, and Craig. And behind the plate, it's Tony Cruz. No Yadier Molina today. Stable force defensively so far has been Pete Cosma, who played most of this season at second base.
Yeah, and he expects to get a lot of action today with Kyle Loesch. He's a ground ball pitcher. Not quite as many as Jake Westbrook, but he'll get some ground balls as well with the sinking fastball. So Cosma and the up the middle defense will be important here this afternoon.
Darwin Barney at the plate, 2 for 10. One of those hits, a big one, a 2-run homer against Salas on Friday afternoon. That tied the game at 4. A game that the Cubs eventually won in extra innings. 1 ball, 1 strike. Jose Oquendo was talking about the infield here at Wrigley and how it could be very tough until they changed it a few years ago, how high the grass was kept, and also the big crown to let the water drain off this infield. And that didn't change until 2 seasons ago.
Well, the grass was the big thing. They had a lot of fly ball hitters back in the day, and they would just kind of take the infield hits away from everybody by letting the grass grow really high, and that made the range better for their infielders as well.
Three balls, 2 strikes on Darwin Barney. In the air out to center. Jay is back and with room makes the catch. 2 outs, and the hitter will be Anthony Rizzo.
John Jay looking to become only the 3rd outfielder in Cardinal history to go an entire season without an error. Curt Flood did it in '96. Orlando Palmeiro in 2003. And John Jay trying to do that this year. He has been very steady in the middle of that Cardinal outfield.
Anthony Rizzo pops 1 foul. Orlando Palmeiro back in 2003 was more of a utility guy, and not playing every day like John Jay.
Right.
Andrew Kashner, who was acquired from the Cubs in the Anthony Rizzo deal by the Padres, started the season as a reliever, converted to starting in June. He is a very hard thrower, and he's been shut down for the season. And here's Rizzo, one of the centerpieces of their rebuilding project here with the Cubs, a deal that a lot of people around baseball were a little surprised that San Diego would make.
Well, he knocked LaHair out of a job, that's for sure.
Way deep at second base was Schumacher, and he makes the play from the outfield grass. September 30th, in recognition of October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month, 25,000 fans ages 16 and older receive a knit headband featuring the Cardinals' pink ribbon logo, presented by Fuse and Schnucks. That's September 30th. Schumacher, Cruz, and Cosma. There's strike 1. That pitch at 66 miles an hour.
Which, by the way, was the year that Curt Flood went errorless, not '96. Misstatement. But the 66-mile-an-hour curveball works, and then it works, and then it doesn't work. If a guy can stay back and keep his hands back and look for it, it becomes a pitch you can adjust to. But that's clearly the way Germano's trying to attack the Cardinal hitters, is just keep them off stride. You know, Randy Wolf does that from the left side. Slow curveball.
2 strikes on Schumacher, 1-2 the count. Germano 9-4 this year at Pawtucket before being traded here to Chicago. He's lasted 6 innings in 1 of his last 10 starts. So again, you would have to think that the Cubs would be going to their bullpen early. Ground ball that's hit to short. Castro fires it over to Rizzo. .25 errors this year by Starlin Castro. Many of the throwing variety of the shortstop of the Cubs, as you get a look at Tony Cruz. And there's even some talk that maybe they would put Castro in the outfield, see if he could play out there to reduce the errors. We know he can hit at this level. That's not a concern at all.
Well, it's a pretty common thought with infielders at the big league level that if a guy makes a lot of errors and he looks athletic doing it, you think, well, we can get him out of that. But if he's just kind of fumbling and stumbling and doesn't have an arm and doesn't have good hands, then you put him in left field.
By the way, that's Soriano, and he used to be an infielder, and now he's in left field.
Imagine that.
Remember, it was Frank Robinson, the Hall of Famer, the great player, and Frank Robinson had Soriano in Washington for 1 year, and he moved him to left field. And in spring training, he said, I'm done. I'm not playing left field anymore. I refuse to play.
I remember that day. It was in St. Louis, and they had a press conference to announce that Frank Robinson said he's playing left and he's going to put his name in the lineup, and if he's not there, we got a problem, because he's playing left. And Frank Robinson's not a guy you mess around with, and Soriano found that out.
Strike 2 on Cruz, 2-2. Cruz came in cold yesterday with a count of 1 ball and no strikes after the ball inside to Yadier Molina that left him sore. Had to leave the game, and Tony gave it a ride into center field. Taps it to the left side. Tough play here, and no play. Joe Mather trying to barehand and make that play. Even if he fields it cleanly, I don't think he gets Cruz.
I agree. He was playing deep for Cruz, not expecting this. Just tops it to the left side. Mather's got a decent arm, but I don't think he gets Tony Cruz.
Here's Pete Kozma. So he's playing every day. What have we learned about Pete Kozma?
He's steady, and he's playing better at the big league level than he played the last couple of years in the minor leagues, which is kind of an oddity, but made a fair amount of errors when he was a Double-A shortstop in Springfield, and batting average is in 215, 220 area. But I think he's maybe developing before our eyes, given a shot here at the big league level. You know, he's not a 4-hit-a-night guy, but he's been able to do something every single night to help offensively.
Mather gets it on the short hop, and they turn 2. Cruz going hard into the second baseman, Darwin Barney. Double play, Soriano coming up. Sights and sounds when you come to Wrigley Field. Let's turn to our keys to the game. Presentation of Toyota and his career with St. Louis against the Central Division.
And here in Chicago, or against Chicago, just 2-3 with an ERA of over 5.5. So surprising there. He's dominated Houston, and 7-2 against Pittsburgh. But Chicago, the team with the highest ERA, and you mentioned, Dan, he hasn't pitched here in Chicago since 2009. But this is a different Kyle Loesch than 2 years ago.
Alfonso Soriano at the plate. Bounce back season for him with 30 home runs and 104 RBIs. and has done that fairly quietly. As you think about some of the big names in baseball that are playing on winning teams or teams that are surging, like a Chase Headley.
And the bad start that he had.
Terrible start. Headley, by the way, leads in RBIs. He's at 108. Braun at 107. And then Soriano at 104.
Kyle Loesch has been a 15-game winner with the Cardinals. He was 15-6 in 08. And a 2-time 14-game winner. So looking for a career high here today.
The 2-1 pitch. Back in May, the advice of Dale Swaim, they asked Soriano to go to a lighter bat. They felt that his bat was dragging. He's now 36 years old.
He's 36, but he has the quickness to get out of the way of that ball, thankfully. Just got away from Loesch.
The 3-2. Soriano. Cosma stays with it. Can he make the play? The first, not in time. Off the end of the bat. Couldn't come up with it. And Soriano, the first base runner for the Cubs this afternoon.
Hits it off the end, off balance swing. He does not run like he used to, that's for sure. Cosma knocked it down, had to go get it, and almost threw him out anyway.
And Eon Cosma. And here is Starlin Castro. The first pitch is popped up. Schumacher going out. And he makes the catch. Cardinals really have held Castro in check this weekend.
We were chatting before the game, Dan, about the fact that they put him in the 5th spot in the lineup too. That's a bit surprising. You're basically saying, okay, we want you to be an RBI guy. He runs well at 25 stolen bases, and I'm not sure whether he's a leadoff hitter or third place hitter. And again, with Rizzo doing what he's doing, may be part of the reason.
The air now apparently has been overturned to a base hit.
I think that's the right call.
So initially an error on Pete Cosma. Take that away. Base hit for Soriano. Wellington Castillo. Have to wonder how aggressive the Cubs would be in free agency this offseason. Clearly in the middle of a rebuilding project, but would Wellington Castillo be their guy to be their everyday catcher going into next season?
In my mind, free agency should be something the Cubs think about 3 years from now, not this year. I think that's where you get in trouble.
Tough play, and it's off the glove of Freese. Cosma backing up. Soriano staying put. So runners at first and second.
Well, the first one was changed to a hit, but this one won't be. David Freese plays it to his backhand. He's more comfortable at times playing to his backhand than getting in front of the ball. And whether he was still thinking two at that point, I don't know. But you'd almost rather see him back up on that play and get a better hop. Easy to say from our vantage point, but that'll be error number 17 for David.
And here is Dave Chappelle, outfielder acquired from Cincinnati.
It's part of infield play, Dan, is picking the right hop and judging how can I get my body in position so I'm getting the right hop and not getting the short hops.
Roland was amazing at that.
No question. And there's instinct to that. There's experience to that.
0-2. Sapelt was called up from AAA Iowa back on the 1st of September. He's now appeared in 17 games down the stretch. Trying to see what they have with him. Nice block by Cruz. You think about losing the offense of Molina, certainly the defense. Molina, by the way, with 30 base stealers that he has caught this year. That's a career high. Most for the Cardinals since 2000. Mike Matheny that year caught 46 in 2000. Think about that, 46. One-two pitch.
Well, it's one thing to say that the Cardinals are going to deal without Yadier Molina for a couple of days or so. It'd be a whole nother conversation to talk about what would the Cardinals do without Yadier Molina until 2013. And that was a possibility with what we saw yesterday. And I think that was going through Mike Matheny's mind. In fact, I know it was when he started grabbing his side. Uh-oh. Because you talk oblique and you're in the situation where Jake Westbrook is right now. Jake tried to throw here yesterday, very frustrating, and feeling for him. He was trying to gut it out and make a start in Houston and just couldn't throw the baseball without the pain, so he's probably done for the season. That injury usually takes 4 to 6 weeks.
3-2 the count. Joe Mather is on deck. Long look by Loesch, and the 3-2. Got him. Strikeout, the first of the afternoon. Kyle Loesch not afraid to throw that changeup at any point in time in the count situation, the game, doesn't matter.
It's really probably been his best pitch all season long when you consider the number of outs he gets on that changeup and the times that he throws it for a strike. A changeup can be a great pitch and it can be a dangerous pitch if you leave it up in the zone. Hanging changeup, pretty easy to hit, but Loesch does not hang very many of them.
Here is Joe Mather at third base today, and he looks at a strike. Always a concern for the Cardinals with Mather. They felt he was a very good athlete. Could play the infield, runs well, the outfield. They felt though he had a very long swing. Big guy, keeps himself in terrific condition, but a long swing. We've seen the Cardinals really try to bust him in the times that he's been in an opposing uniform. This time they go away. Hits the spot, and it's 0-2.
And your point, Dan, is that is the first thing a pitcher notices when they watch somebody they're not familiar with. They watch him swing a bat, whether in batting practice or in a game, and you see that long swing, and immediately it goes to your mind, I can get this guy by pitching him inside.
Sets up outside again. Runner goes, and a throw down to third. Soriano, of all people, has a steal. We say that now, as you mentioned earlier, not noted anymore for stealing bases.
But there was a time where he sure was. Soriano, in his youth, was quite a base stealer. Just got a good jump there, but 3 times more than 40 stolen bases in his career.
1-2 the count on Mather. Runners at the corners now with 2 outs. This is in. 2-2. Germano is hitting .067 on deck.
Wonder if that's an indication that the Cubs are saying we're going to run on Tony Cruz today, make him throw us out.
The 2-2 pitch. Mather pops it up. Cruz near the screen, and it's about 5 rows deep. Understand that Carlos Beltran, one of the reasons why he is not in the lineup this afternoon, dealing with a bit of the flu. They thought there might be food poisoning, so under the weather. Is available, though, hopefully at some point to pinch hit. The 2-2.
Good rip there by Mather. Joe Mather really had an opportunity this year with the Cubs before they were at the point of giving a lot of the starts to Valbuena, who's started a lot at third base. With Ramirez leaving here, there was a vacuum at third base. And originally, they'd hoped to fill that by the Rockies' third baseman,
Ian Stewart. And they've got Vitters now.
He faltered. Vitters is a young player that's really not that tested yet at this level and really underperformed in his minor league career as well. Top draft choice. But so Mather had a job for the taking if he could just go out and perform.
2-2 is hit down the left field line and pulled foul. 5 of Chicago's first 8 home games against the Cardinals have been decided in the team's final at bat.
Yeah, the walk-off variety. Our least favorite.
Joe Mather had one of those.
Yes, he did.
Back in late April. His former teammate Jason Mott. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Now you do have the pitcher up next if you're Kyle Loesch, so you don't really want to put another player into scoring position. You just as soon have Germano lead off next inning. So I don't think walking him on purpose is the right way to go, but don't just kind of groove one here either. Try to strike him out with something nasty. If you walk him, so be it.
Lowe should be out of this inning. Instead, he's dealing with 2 runners on. Full count on Mather. Bounces it to the plate, kept in front by Cruz, and the bases are loaded. The Zoo heads to Florida for a tough non-conference test against Central Florida. That's Saturday on Fox Sports Midwest. You can see that game. The Zoo football Saturday at 11 a.m. Fox Sports Midwest next weekend.
Dan, there are walks that frustrate you, and there are some that don't, and that would be one that doesn't.
Only the 37th walk issued by Loesch. And I guess that pitch is a ball. Looked to be right down the middle, but taken, I guess, a bit inside. Bases loaded for Germano. And the 1-0 pitch. 1 ball, 1 strike. Loesch has been so good this year. Cardinals are 20-11 when he starts. And as we noted, he's got the best winning percentage in baseball at .833. Strike 2.
Cardinals have also won most of their games that Lance Lynn starts. Those two have been not just themselves with the victories, but team victories when it's their turn to start. And sometimes you just get that feeling, hey, Loesch is on the mound. We're winning today. Hopefully that's the feeling in the Cardinal dugout right now.
Did not go, and it's even at 2-2. When Lynn starts, Cardinals 22-11. And they actually are under 500 when Adam Wainwright starts, which is a bit surprising.
Very surprising.
Bases loaded, 2-2 pitch. This season, Loesch, Weaver, Price, Latos, the top winning percentage in baseball, owned by Loesch. Pretty exclusive group right there at 833 for Kyle. The 2-2 on the inside corner and a strikeout. 2 strikeouts in the inning, 2 in the game for Loesch. Cardinals baseball is brought to you by MyKiaSt.Louis.com. And get the All-American Jack Combo at Jack in the Box. It's a no-nonsense burger with fries and a drink for only $4.99 plus tax at participating stores. Red Wrigley Field in Chicago. Some of the rooftops are full today. Sun is shining brightly. Cool afternoon. Along with Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin. Delighted to have you with us. The rubber game between St. Louis and Chicago. It'll be Loesch, then the top of the lineup, Jay and Carpenter for the Redbirds here at Wrigley in the top of the third. Depending on how this season would finish up, you could have a scenario in which Kyle Loesch would finish on the 3rd of September if you needed that game to win, or you could have him on the 4th of September starting your game in that one-game wild card playoff. And if you win though early, you really have a chance to set up your rotation the way you want it.
Yeah, if you win early, you can have Trevor Rosenthal or Shelby Miller start the last couple of games, and you can have whoever you want for the playoffs.
Slowly hit Castro to his left, slings it over to first for the out.
First things first is clinching it, period. Cardinals would love to go to Atlanta. Clinch that second wild card, and no chance of catching Atlanta. Again, we think if the Cardinals go 6-4, really good likelihood they'd be that second wild card. Then the question would be, do the Cardinals celebrate or not? We talked about that a lot with folks down in the clubhouse. Rip Rowan and I chatted about that. It really is confusing because you're going to have to play the next day, perhaps, if you clinch the last day, let's say, or the day before, and then you've got to kind of figure out a way to celebrate as a second wild card team, which nobody's ever done before. I mean, I guess that it almost, is this the playoffs? Does this really count as the playoffs? It's a play into the playoffs. Nobody really seems to know, and they're unclear about that so far.
I would think if you had time in between the games,
yeah,
that they would celebrate. Kind of let off some steam. Long season, obviously. And Jay is hit by the pitch, and he leads a team in that category. John Jay has been hit an awful lot this year. That's number 15 for Jay. MLB.TV, final couple of weeks, get every ball game. Home, road, Yankees, Tigers, White Sox, Cubs, Cardinals. Anybody you want, you've got it at MLB.TV. Baseball is always on.
Back to the rotation question, Dan. I think it's a great question. Cardinal fans certainly starting to buzz about the possibility. You got to win it first, so you don't change your rotation now until you get the job done with 10 games left. There's a lot of wins for the Cardinals to get, but if you could assume that you're in, who do you want to pitch that one game against Atlanta? Is it Chris Carpenter? Is it Kyle Loesch? Is it Adam Wainwright? I think you could make a case for all three of them.
1-0 pitch to Carpenter, and he rips it into right field for a base hit. Jay to second, and he'll stop there as the throw misses Castro, but heads into third. The Cardinals have something going here with one down. Runners at first and second. And the batter will be Holiday.
And this is why you hit the cutoff man, because there are times where the base runner stops And if he hits the cutoff man there, the play is on the base. Perhaps John Jay is out for rounding that bag, but he made, I think, the right choice with a good arm and right to not try to advance from first to third. The ball was hit too hard.
The Atlanta Braves will have a decision on their hands as well. Now they've got Tim Hudson going for win number 16. But Rick, Chris Medlin, they have not lost 21 consecutive games in which he has started. He's been that good.
My understanding is they've already set it up so he would pitch that game.
Makes sense. One out, runners at first and second. Holiday struck out swinging back in the first.
If you asked me today, I had to choose today. Again, way ahead of ourselves in one way, but it's good to think about. You have to start thinking about it at some point, even if you're the Cardinals, in terms of how you set up your pitching. But I would say Kyle Loesch. Now, if Chris Carpenter goes out his next 2 starts and his lights out, I might reconsider.
I want to see Carpenter on Wednesday night. Holiday into center field with a base hit. Here comes Jay. They'll hold him up, and Carpenter is on his way to third, not realizing that Jay is there and an easy out. The Cardinals hopefully haven't run themselves out of this inning. It could have been bases loaded and 1 out for Alan Craig. Oh, and that is so frustrating right now.
That's a huge mental error by Matt Carpenter. He made an assumption, and we know what happens when you do that. And his assumption is that John Jay is going to score on this. But another hard hit ball and another good armed outfielder. So Jose Oquendo holds Jay. Carpenter is looking behind him, and then he goes. He can't see John Jay, and the reason he can't see him is he's standing right next to him.
The Cubs get a break here. So base hit for Holiday. He's 1 for 2. Runners at first and third for Craig.
Now, Carpenter looked over to Oquendo at one point, but he hadn't held Jay yet. He held him late, which is okay. And it's the right thing to do, but Carpenter just assumed he was going. And that's a very frustrating base running blunder.
As you noted, his head was turned towards center field, not looking in front. Craig with a base hit first time up. 1 ball and 1 strike. Again with runners in scoring position, Alan Craig at .398. The 1-1 pitch.
You know, there are times where you are not aggressive as a third base coach because you like the guy who's hitting next. And I think that would be this case with Alan Craig.
Sure.
Because you've got to assume Alan Craig in some way, with the bases loaded, is going to be able to drive in a run. You've got to just assume that's a 90% given. Well, when you get the second runner thrown out, that changes the complexion of the inning completely.
Outfield is deep for Craig. John Jay, the runner at third, Holiday at first. 1 ball and 2 strikes. The 1-2 in the dirt. Holiday on his way to second base. He read that right away, no hesitation. He's in scoring position.
We noticed on the tag play that the Cubs didn't do what Yadier Molina always does, which is tag the lead runner, which in this case would have been John Jay, and try to get him to get off the base and then tag him again, and then they're both out.
I love that play that we've seen in Pittsburgh from Yadi. Such a heads-up play. And he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew which one was the one that you tagged to get the out, but he also baited them into the double play.
And the rule, of course, is if there's 2 guys on the base, the lead runner, it's his base. So the second guy, when the 2 of them are standing there, the second guy's already out. Carpenter's already out.
2-2 pitch. Craig rips it fair. Past Mather. Down into the corner. Alan Craig on his way to second. He delivers again. We shouldn't be surprised. He's just that good. 2-0 Cardinals. A 2-out RBI double by Craig. What a pick-me-up that is here in Chicago.
Exactly the words I would use, a pick-me-up. He picks up his teammates, he picks up Matt Carpenter, and he picks up 2 RBIs. A lot of balls hit hard off the bat of Alan Craig, and there's another one. And his hits don't just come in unimportant situations. They are often big hits. And there's another one.
Now it's freeze and strike one. So many little things in this inning. The base running error there by Carpenter, but also base running plus when you think about Holiday with that pitch in the dirt, advancing to second, allowing that second run to come in to score.
He read that well.
Sure did.
I actually attribute that to good coaching on the Cardinals' point of view, too, because they preach that and have for a number of years. If the ball's in the dirt, go. 99 times out of 100, they're not going to throw you out. Very seldom will a catcher pick the ball and be in a position to throw. And the Cardinals are coached that way. They're as aggressive as anybody on that wild pitch.
Two and one the count on David Freese. Lined out to left with 2 runners on, first time up. And we hope you enjoyed our visit with David prior to the game and talking about his home run from last year's postseason. And things have slowed down a bit for David, but he also told us, Rick, that he's got 2 vacations not in St. Louis. He's going to get out of town and make sure he gets away from some of the hoopla that has surrounded him for essentially a year and a half now.
Don't blame him.
3-2 the count.
I find it interesting that, as he said in that piece in our pregame, that he still doesn't quite have it figured out. And it's going to take him a long period of time to realize where last year fits in Cardinal history, where it fits in his life personally, how he remembers it, how he feels about it. There's so much sensory overload that you get when you get to that kind of pinnacle.
As he said, I still don't get it. I just don't understand the enormity of it. Up the middle, base hit, 3-0 Cardinals. Craig will score. David Freese delivering a 2-out RBI single up the middle. And Freese with RBI number 79. And all these RBIs coming with 2 down.
Kyle Loesch is a happy Cardinal right now, but I think Matt Carpenter is the happiest of all Cardinal players. With Alan Craig and David Freese both getting 2-out hits.
Rick, here we are, second time through the lineup, and Germano not fooling anybody. Schumacher back to Germano. He'll step and throw. Big inning for the Cardinals. A double by Craig to score 2. Freese follows that up with an RBI single. Birds on top.
Go behind it.
If you'd like to be in Chicago next season when we're here, just head to StubHub, the official fan-to-fan ticket marketplace of the Cardinals, and pick up your Cubs-Cardinals tickets. It's the top of the lineup. DeJesus, Darwin Barney, and Anthony Rizzo. The RBI guys for St. Louis. Freese with an RBI single. Alan Craig the double to score 2. Germano, by the way, 3 innings. He's allowed 7 hits already. Loesch pitched out of a bases loaded jam last inning. Oh, 0-2. DeJesus taps softly to first, and he is 0 for 1. 0-2 pitch, and it's a swing and a miss. Third strikeout for Loesch, and let's check in with Pat Paris.
We talked to Adam Wainwright for the pregame show this morning. Remember yesterday after the Cardinals won that game, it was Adam Wainwright who was the pitcher of record until Carlos Beltran hit that game-tying ninth inning home run. He told us afterwards yesterday that he was so excited and so happy that Carlos Beltran bailed him out that he kissed him on the cheek, and he wasn't ashamed to admit he really wanted to kiss him on the mouth. That's how excited he was. Speaks volumes of how this team is handling the situation and the pressure of the September run, how excited they were and relieved with that win yesterday, that today when they came in the clubhouse, there was a message on the dry erase board that said, "No kissing teammates on the mouth," a reference to Adam Wainwright's desire to do so to his teammate who bailed him out yesterday.
Yeah, and Pat, you wanted to do the same thing with Rick. So.
Well, whenever we get a good game call, we love to celebrate in some way, but I don't think we're going to do that.
That apparently is when Rick is here and I'm not.
Well, when Mike Matheny was asked about it this morning, he said that's not really part of our celebration ritual, kissing each other.
And that memo holds true for the booth as well.
Yeah, I would agree. By the way, congratulations to Dan McLaughlin, who picked up a regional Emmy last night for play-by-play, and Rick won last year, so there you go.
Really?
Really?
You didn't know that yet?
Get over here and give me a hug.
No kissing. Sorry.
I didn't know that. Thank you, Pat. I really didn't. That's
very nice.
I'm touched. I'm honored.
Well, go to work. Let's go.
Let's go is right. Well, thank goodness Wainwright didn't kiss Beltran on the lips, because apparently Carlos is suffering from the flu, and I'm being serious today. So we don't need that going through the clubhouse, because
that's not
celebratory
kissing. That's not even the main reason, but it's another one. Yes.
All right, take us to break. I'm out of here.
Dan's going to go find out about his Emmy. Kyle Loesch has the lead through 3.
Cedric, it's Bruce from your old wireless company. Would you switch from US?
Congratulations to Bob Costas, Jim Edmonds, and the rest of the 2012 inductees into the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. Shriman Dinner, presented by Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital, is November 14th. And you can get info and tickets at stlouissportshalloffame.com. Pucker up, Rick. We're heading to the 4th. You are speechless right now.
I'm trying to figure out a way to lie to you by saying I have the flu just to keep you away from it.
You don't have to lie, by the way.
That does say something about Adam Wainwright, though. I mean, he really does love his team. I mean, really does feel a lot of emotion when he plays. And, he talked about that win yesterday in glowing terms. He said that really puts us in the driver's seat. Most players are afraid to say that. They would never say that for fear that would become locker room fodder for other teams that are chasing them. But I think Adam can kind of get away with that, or he has gotten away with that. And he says it out of confidence, and he really does love his teammates in a way that most players don't. I mean, they're just, they're your teammates and your friends, but Wainwright, I think, feels it a little deeper than most.
I agree with you, and we have video of Wainwright from last year in the postseason. And remember, he has nothing to do with it outside of putting on a uniform and getting in that dugout, encouraging, helping, and his response and watching his actions from some of the stuff that we have video of that you can't see, that it may not be seen on the broadcast, but we have the tapes of all the different cameras. As Cruz hits it to the left side. Nice play by Mather. I mean, Rick, in game 6, he is going crazy after that Freese home run. And I'm not saying that anybody else wasn't. Right. Everybody was going nuts. But his reaction is priceless. He's pointing at the crowd. He's jumping up and down. He's hugging people. I mean, and I'm in agreement with you because of many reasons. But you think about how he deals with his teammates and the encouragement, and it's genuine. There's some guys that just say it, and it's not really a big deal, but we can't say he means it. It's a base hit by Kozma. He's hustling all the way, and a wide turnaround first, and he'll stop right there.
This Kozma being steady, picking up another base hit. Not flashy necessarily, but we like the speed on the base pass too. Both he and Chris Maloney, look at that, eyeballing Jose Oquendo. Can I go? Can I go?
I'd like to see it. You're up 3 runs. Let's see if Cardinals want to do something here with Loesch. Can handle the bat. He bunts. Germano steps and throws. Little low to Darwin Barney, but he makes the catch at first.
Number 12 for Kyle Loesch. Successful sacrifice bunts. He's up among the league leaders.
Let's email the booth. Will Pete Kozma be the starting shortstop next season for the Cardinals? It's Perry in Festus, Missouri. Carsoup.com. Let's put it this way. He at least is giving the Cardinals something to think about as an alternative to Rafael Furcal, who is going to be healthy and available to come back. I think if anything, Rick, we've learned you cannot play Rafi at this stage in his career every day.
Yeah, you have to have a plan B. And actually, Tyler Green was the plan B for Rafael Furcal this year. And by the time they got rid of Tyler Green, that's when Furcal went down and you needed the plan B. So Kozma has gotten the chance. I think he's going to get a look. I think Ryan Jackson will get a look. Ryan Jackson actually beat Kozma out for the starting shortstop in AAA this year. They felt like he was maybe ahead of Kozma. But Pete's had a nice second half of the season, and he's going to get a look as at least a plan B if Furcal's not able to go. And frankly, what you said is 100% correct. Even if Furcal is ready to go, what does that really mean?
Could be a fun offseason for those that love the hot stove and what the Cardinals may do. And speaking of shortstops, Castro very close to the runner at second, and Kozma trying to keep him close. And then you have Mather, who is backed up about 4 or 5 steps now at third, closer to the line. So big gap between third and short.
Well, you know what the hot stove league's going to say. Let's trade for Tulowitzki. Let's give him 2 minor leaguers. That's not going to happen.
Catcher profile protecting home for the Yankees and the Mets. St. Louis native Yogi Berra. I mean, maybe the best of all time behind the plate when you consider he was an 18-time All-Star, played on 13 World Championship teams, 3-time most valuable player, inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame back in 1972. I think a lot of people that aren't familiar with Yogi's playing career associate him with all his malaprops and some of his misuse and abuse of the English language from time to time. But during his playing days, he was one of the best, if not the best. Xfinity Home offers state-of-the-art features that help you stay connected to your home and family anytime and anywhere.
On a 2-0, Soriano pops it up. This is John Jay. So 1 out, and here's Starlin Castro. The thing about a lot of Yogi-isms is that they're actually pretty darn smart. People don't want to come out to the ballpark. How are you going to stop them?
Nobody goes to that restaurant anymore. It's too crowded.
Yes.
Cut my large pizza into 6 slices rather than 8. I don't think I can eat 8. If you come to a fork in the road, take it.
Pitch from both sides of the plate. He's amphibious. As Castro with a base hit. I think my favorite is I never said most of the things I said.
Catcher number 53.
It ain't the heat, it's the humility. These are all T-shirts, right?
Absolutely.
You can just see them all. Deja vu all over again. Game isn't over until it's over.
That's a clown question, bro. No, that was somebody else. Yeah.
I think Little League is wonderful. It keeps kids out of the house. 90% of this game is half mental. You can observe a lot just by watching. Touche. One and one. Wellington Castillo, the batter. Castro at first. And the sliders outside. Dave Sapelt on deck. Swing and a miss. See, John Smoltz was quoted the other day talking about the Braves. That top wild card team right now in the National League. And he said it's out of the box, but I wouldn't start Chris Medlin or Tim Hudson in the one-game playoff. Said if you win that first game, then so what? Your best chance to win the World Series is line up your rotation in the division series the way you want to. That one drilled into the left field corner for Castillo. Castro's going to be sent toward the plate by Pat Listash, and he will score. 3-1. They're on the board.
This will be our Nissan drive of the game. You have to be ready and able to take advantage of every mistake Kyle Loesch makes. That time an elevated pitch on the inside part of the plate, and Castillo able to keep it fair down into that left field corner, putting the Cubs on the board. Get to your Nissan dealer for special offers. Nissan, innovation that excites. Visit ChooseNissan.com.
Now, Freddie Gonzalez kind of laughed off those comments. You know, John Smoltz can say whatever he wants. Freddie would probably not have his job if he decided to start their fifth starter for the one-game wild card round. But considering this is a new thing, it will be interesting to see what teams do. And how about the 25-man roster, Bob? I believe that round is separate from the division round. So you wouldn't even want to put your starting pitchers on your roster, correct? The guys who are not pitching in that game.
The only possible exception I could see is if you do the old bait and switch. Start a left-handed reliever, or a right-handed reliever for that matter. Let the opposing manager set his lineup and then make that quick pitching change in the first or second inning and bring in the opposite arm, hopefully having an advantage against the opposing lineup. But yeah, there's really no reason to carry the other four starters on that on the roster for that first game.
Castillo at third, 2 outs, and it's Mather. Loesch seemed to work around him in the second before getting Germano with the bases loaded. We'll see what happens with 2 bases open here. Pops it up, foul territory. Craig trying to find room. He can't. And to navigate around the tarp as well. Well, I kind of wear 2 hats here. I mean, my head tells me that the one-game round is very unbaseball-like. We always talk about winning a series, and this is almost like a bowl game. But Dale Swain was talking about it today. Said, you know, if you're watching a playoff series as a fan, you may tune into game 3 or 4, you may wait. Said when it's one-game round, you're going to be watching. And so from that vantage point, it's hard to disagree with the idea of a winner-take-all one-game playoff. I think the manager of the winning team in both leagues in that 1-game round will love the idea, and the loser will hate it.
That's going to draw a lot of attention. As you said, a 1-game playoff, a winner go home, March Madness type of a situation. Obviously, that's as much pressure as you can possibly get, and fans love to watch pressure-packed games. But as you said, for players who are so accustomed to rolling into a city and playing a 3-game series, you move on, you play another 3 or 4-game series. The depth of your roster, the depth of your pitching staff is going to be more accurately gauged by a 3-game series than a 1-game playoff game.
That gets by Castillo on his way to the plate. He will score 3-2. That's a wild pitch on Loesch.
His first of the year.
Wow.
And when Loesch throws a wild pitch, it's usually not because he's wild. It's because he intends to throw the ball in the dirt. And that time, Tony Cruz just could not come up with it over in that left-handed batter's box. And Castillo scurries home, pulling the Cubs to within a run.
Feels like this game is destined to be close. 5 of the first 8 games these two teams have played here at Wrigley Field this season have been decided in the final at bat. As Mather called out on strikes, Cubs get 2. They're down a run. Fifth inning is brought to you by Fifth Third Bank, the Curious Bank. Member FDIC.
Look away. Look away. Oh, man. Get called out on that pitch. That's brutal. Well, at least it took 4 innings before CB reared his ugly head in the ball game today.
2, 3, and 4 for the Cardinals. Carpenter is 2 for 2, but he ran into an out in the 3rd inning. Trailing by a run after his team gave him a couple. Get back in it here.
Now, this was one of the matchups in this Cardinals lineup that I was a little concerned about going into this game. We talked about Matt Carpenter in yesterday's ball game. A little bit of a slider speed bat. You can overpower him on the inside part of the plate or up in the zone with good fastballs. Unfortunately, Germano, more of an off-speed pitcher. And that a lot of times is right in the middle of Matt Carpenter's swing.
Germano's from Southern California. Cubs got him from Boston earlier this year. This is his 5th major league club. Padres, Reds, Indians, Red Sox, and now the Cubs. 30 years old. Full count, 3-2. Holiday will bat next. Roller to Rizzo. He'll take it by himself. Time now for today's Illinois Lottery Anything's Possible player. Miguel Cabrera may win the Triple Crown. He would be the first American League Triple Crown winner since Carl Yastrzemski, 1967, the Anything's Possible player. Brought to you by the Illinois Lottery, who each day make anything possible. Home run leaders in the American League. Cabrera and Hamilton lead the way with 42. The Tigers, by the way, are getting blasted by the Twins in game 1. 10-2 in the bottom of the 8th. Holiday to Castro. 2 gone.
It's even more impressive for Miguel Cabrera because the ballpark that he plays half of his games in is not really a great home run hitter's ballpark. Josh Hamilton playing down at the ballpark in Arlington. Well, we know there's a jet stream out to right center. The ball carries extremely well. Not to take anything away from Josh Hamilton's numbers, but a little easier to hit home runs in that ballpark than at Tiger Stadium.
Craig opened the scoring with his 2-run double in the 3rd. And he would come around on the Freeze base hit. Swing reminded me a little bit of Mark DeRosa. A longer swing. Into right, and he's 3 for 3.
Alan Craig having himself a real good offensive season. When you can cover that far off the outside corner and still hit the ball with authority to the opposite field, you're going to have a good year. He's very quick on pitches from the middle of the plate in, can extend his swing on pitches away like that one.
Got an email from Steve O. Bob, why does Wellington Castillo wear a catcher's helmet with a visor forward? It seems to be uncomfortable.
It does shade your eyes a little bit more. There's that area on the top of the cage right there. When the sun is directly overhead, it shines right through the bars and into your eyes. You can barely see the bill of that helmet. It just kind of covers up that area on the top of the mask, keeps the sun out of his eyes a little bit. That's not a new thing. I played with actually the younger brother of Rick Dempsey, a young man by the name of Pat Dempsey. Well, he was a young man at the time. That was back in 1980, the first time I ever saw a catcher do that. Just doesn't look right. You know, catchers always, if you're going to wear some kind of a helmet underneath, usually the bill sticks out the back. Keep the rain off your neck.
Why can't you have a bill on both sides?
Yeah, you could.
That would be the twin bill.
Ooh. Like an Elmer Fudd hunting cap.
Rascally Wabbit. 3-1.
That's a good catch, though, Steve-O. Is that Steve-O? Is that who it was?
Yeah, Steve O.
Okay.
We'll call him Steve-O, though. I like it. One of the ball boys today, Vincent Virgilio from Elmwood Park. Last game today. Going back and forth from the University of Illinois. Business honors. As Freeze takes a walk, Stephen and Patty, his parents, want to wish him the best. There you go.
I thought he had a bill on the back, too. I guess not. Thinking of one of his different hunting caps.
Although, considering it was 47 years ago the last time you saw it, right? Your memory may have faded.
Oh, my memory has faded. No doubt about that.
I want to send out congratulations to my buddy Paul Moran, who was inducted into the Wheelchair Softball Hall of Fame recently. He participates for the RIC Cubs Care Cubs. Hector Bruno and Paul Moran shared the tournament MVP awards as the Wheelchair Cubs had the annual MLB sponsored World Series of Wheelchair Softball, and they won it.
Nice going.
Was among the MLB sponsored teams. So congrats to the Cubs. Schumacher lifts one high in the air into center, where DeJesus will make the play. And the inning is over. They strand two. 3-2 St. Louis in the fifth. The fifth inning is brought to you by Fifth Third Bank, the Curious Bank. Member FDIC. 1-0 pitch to Germano is low. 2-0 on the Cubs pitcher.
I was surprised to see Germano take this at bat, Len. He has shown throughout the year, a couple times through the lineup, is about the limit. 6 Cardinal hitters have already seen him 3 times, and trailing by a run in the ball game. I mean, this could be one of those situations, and we've talked about it a lot in the second half of the season, where Dale Swaim and Chris Bosio want to see if Justin Germano can go out there and right the ship and give the Cubs another inning or two. Not only looking to today's ball game, but looking to the future, just to see if Justin Germano is a guy that maybe you can count on to get deeper into ball games next year.
Pops out to Cosma. Now DeJesus. Pirates leading today 4-0 at Houston in the bottom of the 5th. Lost again last night. They're 5th in a row. They're 6.5 behind the Cardinals in a wild card. 3 games under 500. Life was so easy at that age, wasn't it? Spend all that time trying to grow up.
Yep. What's the rush?
Well, a wild one in New York yesterday as the Yankees overcame a 4-run deficit to tie the A's in the 13th and then won it in the 14th. Today Oakland leading 5-4 in the 7th. A wind in the 1-2. Fly ball well hit to left. Holiday will chase that one all the way to the vines, and it's a double. Let's take a look at our Ford upcoming Cubs schedule. We're on the air early on Tuesday, 7 o'clock for the leadoff man. We'll have a nice long chat with Jeff Samardzija about his 2012 season. And then next weekend we're in Arizona against the Diamondbacks. Ford, manufacturers of more fuel efficient vehicles than any other brand. Check them out at your local Ford store or online at localfordstores.com. Chance to tie it here. With DeJesus at second and Darwin Barney at the plate. Only one out.
Mentioned the A's leading the Yankees 5-4, wrapping up that series in the Bronx, and then the A's head to Arlington for a big series against the Rangers.
Well, this was the trip a lot of people were looking at for Oakland. Detroit, New York, and Texas.
I think Tony Cruz got bitten by that last foul ball. C.B. Buckner giving him all kinds of time to regroup back there behind the plate. Keeps flexing that throwing hand as he gets back into his crouch and gets ready to give signs.
On the outside corner. Let's step aside and see what's coming up on WGN.
WGN America is
0-2 on Darwin Barney. It's up. Center field, it's going to hold up for John Jay. 2 outs.
Kyle Lohse is one of those pitchers, Len. We've documented his statistics this year and some of the big starts he's had for the Cardinals, but he's just one of those guys that at the end of the day you go back into your clubhouse and you feel like you were on pitches, you feel like you had good pitches to hit, you just didn't do much with them. Well, that's because of the late movement and the command of those pitches. He rarely makes mistakes in the middle of the plate. When he misses, he generally misses in his favor. And as some of the numbers I gave you earlier, it seems like he pitches his best when he has runners on base and has to execute good pitches. Buddy Ron Santo used to call it the comfortable collar. You never felt like you were overmatched by the opposing pitcher, but you just didn't have very many good at bats.
Jesus, a tying run at second. He doubled with 1 out. Now there are 2. And Lohse ready for a 1-2. Rizzo fought that one off.
Speaking of comfortable collars, I had a few against this guy. One of our This Day in Baseball histories goes back to 1986 on this day. Our buddy Jim Deshaies, now a fine announcer for the Houston Astros, was a rookie left-handed starting pitcher, struck out the first 8 batters he faced in a game.
JD.
You can always throw that four-seam fastball just a little bit higher than you could handle. A lot of lazy fly balls.
Speaking of National League left-handers, Clayton Kershaw with the hip injury, I guess, is going to pitch tonight for the Dodgers in Cincinnati. Big boost for them.
Well, from what I've read, it's just a matter of how much pain he can tolerate. He's been told he can do no further damage. It's just a question of how much he can grit his teeth and go out there and pitch through it.
Foul tip, strike 3, and that'll end the inning. We go to the 6th in the rubber game. 3-2 St. Louis.
On rules
is brought to you by Budweiser. This year Budweiser will donate $5,000 for every Cubs walk-off win to Folds of Honor. Find them at facebook.com/Budweiser to see how you can help support our nation's soldiers and veterans. Great to see our good friend Jimmy Farrell back at the ballpark here on Kerrywood Appreciation Day. Jimmy was the umpire room attendant here at Wrigley Field for a long time. A quarter of a century. One of the nicest human beings we've ever met. And I know today was an important day for Jimmy to be here for Kerry Wood and his family.
Absolutely. Jimmy was a big fan of Kerry's and vice versa. Jimmy's job may have been as the umpire room attendant, but his real job was to keep everybody happy here at Wrigley Field. It was always good to see Jimmy smile on his face, just happy to be at Wrigley Field.
Curveball missed on Cruz, and it's 1-1. James Russell has started to crank it up in the Cubs bullpen. 3-2 they trail here in the 6th inning. This is definitely a game a lot of other teams in the National League wild card race are keeping a close eye on. Scoreboard watching is fun. That's part of being a baseball nut. Yeah, did you hear what happened in that Dodger game? Who hit a home run in that Brewer game today? This time of the year we spend a lot of time on the team bus. You know, hey, who won that game? Get off the plane. Whoever can fire up their cell phone fastest, check on the scores as Castro makes a catch. Cosma's 1 for 2. I'll never forget the last day of the season last year. We were in San Diego, Cubs and Padres wrapping up the regular season. Little did we know, I'm sure Anthony Rizzo played in that game, that he would be the Cubs' future first baseman. I'm sure we ran into Jed Hoyer, maybe Jason McLeod working with the Padres. Little did we know they would end up with the Cubs as well. But we had a couple of monitors in our booth looking at those other games. That one was smoked out into the bleachers and left for a home run. And that makes it 4-2 St. Louis on Cosma's first major league home run.
They picked a good time to hit it. The wind that was blowing so hard earlier this morning has almost died down completely. Cosma with a line drive straight away left field. Congratulations, I guess.
But that night we were monitoring the Rays and their huge comeback against the Yankees. Dan Johnson at the big homer to tie it, and then Longoria won it Well, the Red Sox and Orioles game was later. Chris Carpenter was pitching for St. Louis against Houston. And we were watching the Braves and the Phillies. All heck was breaking loose on the final day. It was, I think, arguably the most dramatic day in regular season baseball history. Look out, as Loesch could not hang on to the bat.
You think about scoreboard watching, and I know a lot of managers say, no, I just take care of my own business here. I can't worry about other games. But if you think about all the ballparks you've ever been to in the major leagues, one of the most prominent things you see in any stadium is the out-of-town scoreboard. And usually it's right in your sight line as a manager. Tough not to see those out-of-town scores.
Well, the other thing about it, for a manager, why not look? Is it really going to affect the way you manage?
Probably not.
You're trying to win every game.
But, you know, if you happen to look up there and you're playing a close ball game, maybe you've got a one-run lead in the middle part of a ball game, and you look up there and you see the team that's chasing you is behind 15-0 in the 7th inning. Maybe you'd be a little more likely to, I'm going to pull the plug on my starter now. Go to the bullpen for the rest of the game, get some at bats for some of the guys, get my better defensive team on the field earlier than I normally would, because I know the team that's chasing me is getting whooped.
Loesch strikes out,
but you still try to win the ball game. You're absolutely right.
Tickets are available for the last homestand of the season against the Astros on October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd here at Wrigley Field. To purchase tickets, visit Cubs.com, call 1-800-THE-CUBS, or visit the Wrigley Field box office. That'll be it for Germano. His left-hander James Russell coming on when we return in the 6th. Here's James Russell to face John Jay. Cosma with his first big league homer to make it 4-2. Kerry Wood fans,
you'd have to use some advanced metrics to really determine if they were the biggest fans. Kerry Wood's got a lot of fans.
Yes, he does. He will conduct the stretch with his family coming up in the 7th. Foul tip, 1-2. On the ground, Barney will field, and good quick throw. Good stretch by Rizzo, inning over. 4-2 Cardinals midway in the 6th. Time now for our BMW in-game box score. The 2013 3 Series with X-Drive is here. Visit your local Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana BMW Center today to test drive one. Not a ton happening. Cubs got a couple runs in the 4th inning, one on a wild pitch. Castillo knocked in Castro with a double. Cardinals have doubled him up 4-2. Milwaukee has grabbed a 5-2 lead with 3 in the 7th at Washington. Aramis Ramirez with 2 doubles. He has 49 on the year. Bobby's hitting .299. Alfonso Soriano, and gone. That was up in the air for a long time. 4-3. New career high with his 105th RBI, homer number 31. The only concern was the wind.
Yeah, it was absolutely clubbed, but it was so high in the air, and that wind continues to blow in. You could see the reaction by Kyle Loesch. He thought that ball was way out of here, and it got far enough out. Well, on a normal day or maybe a little wind blowing out, that ball ends up way out onto Waveland Avenue, but as it is, about 2 or 3 rows deep in the bleachers. Crushed it.
Back to a 1-run game after the leadoff homer. Castro didn't mean to, and he's going to roll out to the first baseman. He's still very much in the mix in the National League.
We talked about it the other day. I mean, Fonzie's been doing his part. It'd be nice if some of his teammates hitting in front of him in the lineup would get on base a little more often, give him some more opportunities. But he has really taken advantage of just about every RBI situation he's been in lately. And when he steps in that right-handed batter's box, he's in scoring position.
Another cue shot to first. A couple of easy plays defensively for Craig in this inning. Dave Chappelle with 2 outs. What was your Mazda drive to victory? Be a thorn?
That's right.
Cubs have been that thorn all weekend. Came back and won Friday. Had a lead in the 9th yesterday. And they're within a run here today against 15-3 Kyle Loesch.
You know, Len, I talked earlier about you better be ready to take advantage of every mistake Kyle Loesch makes in a game. Look at the pitch track. Sliders away, sliders away, sliders away. One of the rare mistakes he's made today, a fastball up on the outer third of the plate.
An error on Schumacher. Cubs still alive here in the 6th. Skip Schumacher plays a few positions, including the outfield. Is that one of the bigger second baseman gloves you'll see?
Yeah, that's a lot longer than most second basemen's mitts. Yeah, usually the second baseman's glove is only a little bit bigger than their hand.
That's huge.
That is a considerably larger glove than you will normally see used by a middle infielder. But apparently it's what he's comfortable with. You mentioned he plays all over the field for Mike Matheny.
Line to right. Caught by Carpenter. You know what it is? It's an enormous infielder's glove. A big hand, yes. 4-3. Flying high again. That's Sloan. We'll be flying high again as we head off to the Rockies. Playing the Colorado Rockies. That's our Bud Fan Cam, brought to you by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some Buds. Great Canadian power pop band Sloan. Saw a Sellout show at Subterranean last night. Ears are still ringing. 0-2 on Carpenter. Fouled back.
Me, I was dog sitting. You were out having fun, rocking out to Sloan. I was dog sitting.
How was it?
That was great. I have an amazing ability to communicate with my son Michael's dog Cooper. I'm definitely the alpha figure.
The alpha male, right? There is definitely a pecking order, and in the dog world, they want to know where they fit in.
Oh, make no mistake about it. Cooper knew where he fit in last night. There's only 2 of us in the house. Which doesn't explain why I had to bounce up and take him for a walk 6 times last night. Those false alarms. That's the great equalizer when it comes to that alpha male theory. The alpha male also has to clean up the house.
Swing and a miss for the first out.
So when the dog indicates it's time to go out, you know, you go out.
Yep.
So who's really the alpha
That's
figure?
true. Dale's going to make a double switch. It's like Alberto Cabrera will be the pitcher. Luis Valbuena will join him. Flying high again. Last road trip coming up. 4-3 St. Louis. Battling a little right knee soreness, feeling better today. He got a pinch hit at bat yesterday. And he's into the game as part of a double switch along with Alberto Cabrera. The Cubs have 3 wins on this homestand. All 3 wins have featured a pitcher grabbing his first career victory, including Cabrera on Friday.
Cabrera's been much more efficient with his pitches recently. Has really good stuff. Doesn't give up a lot of damage via base on, or rather base hits, but occasionally has pitched himself into some trouble with the walks.
In the dirt on Matt Holliday. 1 ball, no strikes. Too high, 3-0. Spazio working with these young relief pitchers, just trying to limit those walks. Jay Chapman had a couple walks come back to bite him in the 10th inning in the ball game yesterday. Three and 1. As we get later into the afternoon, shadows start to become a factor. 3-2.
Not so bad right now. The hitter's standing in the shade, obviously, but that pitch is going to travel about 55 feet before it gets into those shadows, and the hitter usually doesn't track it the last 5 feet anyway.
Way outside for ball 4. Big day already for Alan Craig. 2 singles and a go-ahead 2-run double. Down by Castillo. Ball 1.
Words of encouragement from Wellington Castillo and Luis Valbuena. But Cabrera was mostly listening out there on the mound. That's ultimately the point that Dale Swaim and Chris Bosio would like to get to, so that the pitching coach doesn't have to run to the mound every situation and remind a pitcher what it is they want him to do. They want the catchers to take a more hands-on role handling the pitching staff.
Breaking ball missed. 2-0. Two and 1. The Wood family getting set for the stretch. Popped him up. Castro took a look back and realized he was going to have to make the catch. He does. And there are 2 away, and it's David Freese.
Third baseman, David Freese.
Nice day, cool. On a sweatshirt, light jacket in the shade, and very pleasant.
And it's one of those days Wrigley plays as 2 different ballparks for the fans. If you're sitting in the shade, you definitely need some kind of a jacket or a sweatshirt today, but out in the sunshine, we've seen some tank tops, t-shirts, shorts.
Well, it's a St. Louis Chicago doubleheader today. The Bears took care of business 23-6 over the Rams. Cubs trying to come back late. Here's Holiday runs. Breaking ball strike. Holiday is out. Stretch time. Season acquisition has been lights out for the Cardinals. Cubs trail by a run. Luis Valbuena will lead it off, and what a pleasure to have Kerry Wood with us in the booth on Kerry Wood Day here in Chicago, and a little different vantage point for you.
Definitely. I found myself cringing on every fly ball for a little while until you get used to it.
The game looks a little slower and a little easier up here.
Much
you can
easier
see everything up here.
Much easier up here.
Well, what a great day.
Beautiful day. Great day for the family. Obviously, thanks to the Cubs for having us out and doing this, but great weather, and so far the kids have been great.
1 strike on Valbuena. Some guys struggle when they walk away from the game. I haven't talked to you specifically about it, but I've talked to your friends, and it sounds like you feel good.
I feel
you've
great.
had a good summer. You've taken some trips.
I have. My only struggle is the carpool line, figuring out pickups and drop-offs at school. That's a big thing when you screw that up.
Oh yeah, that Mr. Mom stuff. You got to get it right.
Took me about a week to get the hang of it, but it's been fun. I got to see a lot of Little League games I hadn't been a part of, and Justin just started flag football and soccer, so you know, I'm the dad on the sidelines, and I'm enjoying it.
Here's our AT&T Uverse replay against the White Sox. A nasty breaking ball to get Dion Viciedo, and what a moment here when Justin came out.
Yeah, you can't write that any better, and it wasn't planned. Justin was just supposed to be in the dugout, and the guys kind of sent him out, and you can see he locked up right there. He got out there and realized how many people were actually in the stadium, and he wouldn't let go. So probably top moment of my career right there.
Nice.
See what's possible with AT&T Uverse high-speed internet. AT&T, rethink possible. Well, let's get the baseball stuff this year out of the way. The stuff was still there, Kerry, but I know the recovery time was very difficult, right?
It was.
Still
Actually,
throwing hard.
Just watching that was probably the best breaking ball I've thrown in about 3 years. That was the last one. But yeah, it was a you know, combination of things. I think kids are getting older. Body wasn't responding as well as it needed to be, and handcuffing Dale with the pin and putting younger guys down there in situations they might not have been ready for, and just, you know, because I couldn't recover and come back, and I go out there and throw 7 or 8 pitches in an outing, and you know, found myself needing 2 days to come back from that. So that's just you know, you're really handcuffing your manager when you're doing that. So and I wasn't throwing the ball that well either. So you know, and it just, again, got to the point where it was taking too long to get ready and come back. So it was just it was time.
Well, your career was almost over a few years ago, and I know you had contemplated it at that point, and to come back and have the career as a reliever that you did, I mean, to do both so well. You know, you always had starting, I know, in your blood, as that's going to be caught. Can we keep you here for a couple more minutes?
Absolutely.
Talking with Kerry Wood. 4-3 St. Louis as we go to the 8th. Great moment before the game, the ceremonial first pitch.
I used to roll with one of the strictest guides out there.
4-3 Cardinals. We're in the 8th. Kerry Wood is with us. So as I was saying, you did both in your career, and I know throwing the first pitch and last pitch of the game is ideal, but did you learn to appreciate being ready to pitch every single day as a reliever?
I did, and it took me a little while to get used to it, but I did. It grew on me, and I did learn to appreciate it and have a whole different respect for the guys down in that pen on a daily basis that maybe as a starter or a younger player I didn't. You know, sometimes as a starter you go 7 or 8 innings and you got a guy come in and throws 4 or 5 pitches, he gives up a run, you're like, man, all you gotta do is get 3 outs. You know, and it's not that easy. I mean, these guys are down there every day ready to answer the call, and you know, they go out there feeling less than 100%, probably more than anybody on the field. So a lot of respect for the guys that have especially made a career out of coming out of the bullpen, especially late in games. And you know, I'm glad I had an opportunity to do both, to start, to close, and you know, and even setting up and pitching the 8th inning. It's just nice to get down there and be a part of a winning bullpen and a good group of guys, and you have kind of a different bond with those guys you sit down there with every day.
That's a key area that people probably don't talk about enough. You know, the Sean Camps and James Russells and Carlos Marmol before becoming the closer was the guy who, those guys pitch every day.
Every day.
You know, especially if you've got a good team that has a late lead. You've got to rely on somebody to make 70, 80 appearances and get the ball to the closer.
And usually they come into the game with runners on base, or they're facing the middle of the opponent's lineup. There's never really an easy outing for those guys late in the game.
There's not, and I kind of lucked out. I don't know if it was time or age or both, but you know, when I was closing, obviously you get you know when you're going to get days off, obviously when you're behind in the game. So but those guys never feel like they're going to get that day off, so they've got to be ready, you know, for all 9 innings. So it's a tough job.
And you could hit too, and I think the loudest I've ever heard a baseball stadium ever was when you hit. I mean, the press box was literally shaking when you hit the home run in Game 7 of the NLCS.
That was the loudest I've heard the stadium.
Yeah.
Here. And turning right there, I turned around at first base and saw the beers and everything flying in the air. Was probably one of the coolest moments for me. And I did take a little bit of pride in hitting.
Yes, you did.
We all think we can hit as pitchers.
Runner on. Cardinals lead 4-3 here in the 8th. You're one of 14 players in the history of this franchise to appear in as many as 4 postseasons. And I know you didn't take that lightly either.
You know, that's why we play the game. It was a good run, and we came up short, but a few times, actually every time. But 2003 is a year I'll never forget. You know, you come in. I came in at 98. We make the playoffs in the wild card that year, and Traxel pitches that playoff game and gets us to the postseason. And you just think you're going to be, as a young player, you think, oh, this is great. This is what it's all about. We're going to be in the playoffs every year, and it just doesn't work out that way. So you learn not to take those things for granted and really embrace that moment when you do get back into the postseason and really take it all in. And there's not a better field or a better place to be with the energy of postseason than here at Wrigley Field. And you know, I know 2003 there was tens of thousands of people outside of the stadium, and even when we were in Atlanta, they were out here in the streets. So it's a special place that deserves to be in the postseason every year.
It is 1-2 on Schumacher. Well, don't let anybody tell you you're old, because here's a guy in his mid-30s and everybody's telling him he's old. Well, maybe in baseball years you're up there a little bit, but you've got your whole life ahead of you. You still have so much to offer baseball wise, but you've got a lot of time. And as you said, I know your family time is very important to you. You've made Chicago your home, and I wouldn't be surprised if you're around the ballpark a little bit more as time moves on, as that one is rolled into right, and Freese is going to make the turn and head to third. Is that safe to say, Karen?
I certainly hope so and expect to be, and I've actually stopped saying that I'm retired. I'm kind of in between gigs now, so we'll see, and hopefully you know, we'll get something done. But I definitely want to be a part of this organization, be around the guys, and not sure exactly what we've got planned or what I'd like to do. It's all new to me, so I've got time to figure out where I fit and how I can help. So I definitely want to be a part of the organization and part of this team when they do win it.
There's Tony Cruz, first and third, with nobody out. How do you watch games now? Is it? Do you get anxious? Are you able to watch as a fan?
I don't, and honestly, I probably shouldn't say it, but I haven't watched a whole lot of games. I've been pretty busy, and obviously if it's on, I'll stop and I'll check out if you know, a lot of new faces for me too here. So if there's some teammates that I played with pitching or up to bat, obviously I watch that and keep an eye on the guys. But I haven't really sat down and watched a whole game. I don't think since I retired. So. Today might be one of the first ones I've actually seen the whole game.
We were in Washington recently. I had a long chat with one of your close friends, former teammate Mark DeRosa, and that run in the first 2 years of Lou Piniella's tenure here, that was a pretty special time too, wasn't it?
And a great group of guys. We had so much fun doing it. We were good. We knew we were good, and we had fun doing it. And the city was electric. Eddie Vedder was writing songs about us. It was great. Yeah. So it was just a fun time. And I talk to DeRosa every now and then, and he always brings those 2 years up. He brings it up and talks about how special it was. And you find yourself as a player trying to chase those moments and try to recapture them when you go other places, and it's just it's not possible.
That's a great way to put it, chasing the moments. Yeah. You know, when all is said and done, and you go home with your family at the end of your career. You made a lot of friends in this game, and those are going to last forever. But those moments, that home run in the playoffs, those are the kind of things that'll stay with you forever.
Absolutely. And DeRosa always tells a story. He's like, I hit a home run, and I come down, and by the on-deck circle, I'm giving Eddie Vedder a high five, and John Cusack, and Chris Chelios. It's awesome. This is awesome. And it was. It's just the players. We fed off that as well, and it was just special.
There's the babyface assassin back in 1998. Holding the earpiece and your hands shaking. Post-game interview.
I had no idea what just happened.
20 strikeout game.
Safe to say I had a little adrenaline going still.
Yeah.
Probably could have gone a few more innings.
I felt like I had 3 or 4 more left.
Yeah.
How can you verbalize or put it into words coming off Tommy John surgery, all the shoulder issues, and waiting, and then when you get back? I mean, that too is quite an accomplishment that I don't know if a lot of people appreciate, all the hard work behind the scenes to just get back and
it's rewarding. It is. It's rewarding from a personal standpoint, and rewarding for the people that help you get back. The support system that's around you, that's, you know, my wife and family that deal with me coming home one day saying I feel great, I think I'm going to be able to do this again, and then you come home 3 days later and say I'm never going to throw again. You know, for them dealing with that, and the physical therapists that you're working with on a daily basis, and you know, that's a 7-day-a-week job. It became a 7-day-a-week job for Brett Fisher out in Arizona, and sleepless nights for everybody. But it's rewarding for everybody involved in that whole process, and at no point was it ever easy, but I still thought there was some baseball left.
Well, that's what makes it all worthwhile, right?
Absolutely.
If it were easy, everybody could do it.
And it changes you, obviously, as a player. You have to adjust some things that maybe you did differently when you took them for granted. But it changes you as a person too.
Absolutely.
Gives you a different perspective, not only on the game of baseball, but on life itself.
Yeah, I changed mechanics. I changed arm angle a little bit. You change the fact of when you come to the field, you actually take everything in and take absolutely nothing for granted. And every moment, and regardless if it's a Tuesday game against Pittsburgh in July, you take in something that happens in that moment, and you really kind of take it in a little bit more and appreciate it more.
There's ball 4 to load him up here. Gary, this is a good opportunity for us and for our fans, because we don't get to talk to a lot of guys who are just on the field as players, as Dale's going to come out and make a change. So we'll get into this. No, we're going to keep it here. Okay. We're going to keep it here during the pitching change as Dale comes out. But the camaraderie in a clubhouse and on the team planes and things, and people often ask, when the team's good, you know, what's the clubhouse like? When the team's struggling, what's the clubhouse like? By and large, you walk into any clubhouse, no matter what the record is, it's a good clubhouse.
Yeah.
Chemistry is kind of a tough thing to define, but I know guys get along and have fun, and you really have to. You're together so much more than even your family during a summer, right?
Well, not to mention you're in a big league clubhouse. You know, that kind of helps. You really look around and realize where you are, and obviously you don't want to be content with just being there, but you are in a big league clubhouse. You at some point you need to act like you belong here, and you've earned it. And but it should be a good clubhouse, and these guys are all good guys. We're all fighting for the same thing. We want to get to the best part. You know, we want to get our game to the best level we can, so we can go out and get into the postseason, and that's the ultimate goal. And you know, you have baseball teams over, you have turnover, and guys are floating around all over the place. But again, it's such a small family when you just talk about the Major League Baseball player that we all get it. We all get it. So you know, winning helps a lot of that.
We were joking around a little bit earlier about alpha males. I had a dog sit the other day, and the same phenomenon happens in a clubhouse, though. When you were 20 years old, I imagine you just sat in the corner, kept your mouth shut and your ears open, and tried to stay out of the veterans' way. But there comes that time when you look around a clubhouse and go, wait a minute.
That's me now.
I'm the senior citizen here. Yeah. How did that feel when you made that realization?
You know, it was a slow process for me. I kept my mouth shut for about 3 or 4 years and didn't say a word, and just watched the veteran guys. I was around Tappanees and the Rod Becks and the Gracies, and I can go on. But and Gary Gaetti there for a little while, and just you just watch what those guys do and how they handle it, and how they handle the bad ones and bad streaks and things that they say when they address the team. And you just kind of take it all in, because at some point it's going to be your turn to stand up and say, hey, we've lost 10 out of the last 11. We need to get it. We need to get our heads out, and let's get something going. So but you really just it comes from previous players and going through it as a young player and having that experience.
You see Adrian Chambers running for Freeze at third, and Michael Bowden's done a nice job and has been given more responsibility as he has continued to pitch well. And it is Pete Cosmo who hit his first major league home run his last time up. Bases loaded, nobody out, and Bowden's first pitch is taken for a strike. Well, Kerry, we're on WGN, and I know it's been great for you throughout your career that a lot of your family and friends all over the country have been able to watch your exploits here in Chicago. But what do you have to say to all the Cub fans out there who followed your career?
It's been fun. I had a good run. It was thank you obviously for all your support through the injuries, and we've had a lot of ups and some downs. But like I said earlier, it's been I'm leaving here with a lifetime full of memories, and couldn't think of anyone better to share them with than the fans of Chicago. I mean, I really don't think that there's a better group of fans in all of sports, and passionate. So you know, thanks for the support. Obviously my family and I appreciate it, and it's been a good run.
Ready for a 1-1 here. Cubs trying to keep it close, and that's deep to right as the runner's ready to tag. Sapelt makes a catch. Chambers will score. Also on the play, Schumacher will move over to third. And what about the new baseball field here in Chicago?
I just saw some pictures of it a couple innings ago. We've got our groundbreaking on October 11th. So
October 11th.
Yeah,
okay.
it's coming. So we hopefully, provided that we have a decent enough winter, we should I think we're planning on opening up in April.
Do we have a name? Is it Kerrywood Field?
Kerrywood Cubs Field, I believe. And yeah, it's going to be a beautiful facility. It seats about 1,100, 1,200 people. Great concourse, dugouts, and the whole 9 yards. So it's going to be a great place for the high school kids to be able to utilize and play some games, and finally have a nice big stadium here in the city for the older kids to be able to play at.
All right, how'd you get Beltran out?
Walked him and got to the next guy.
There you go.
Got a base open. Had a lot of those. Walk him and try to get the next guy.
Learned that from Greg Maddox, right?
Didn't always work out. That's just what I told myself after I walked him. I did that on purpose.
I did that on purpose. Yeah.
I wanted this guy anyways.
It's not only Kerrywood Appreciation Day at Wrigley Field. It is Kerrywood Day in Chicago and in the entire state of Illinois. The mayor and the governor proclaiming it Kerrywood Day. Even in Belleville and East St. Louis, because they're still in Illinois, it is Kerrywood Day. Actually, Kerry, I noticed you got a standing ovation from everybody wearing red here, and I think that says a lot about you and your career, that even the Cardinal fans here were acknowledging your career.
One of probably the best stadium to go play in as far as true baseball fans on the road. These guys know the game. They respect the players. They respect the other players. Not many stadiums when you see an opposing player make a diving catch in the outfield where the opposing fans stand up and give the guy cheers. So these Cardinal fans are just as special as Chicago. But we had some good rivals. I had some great games in St. Louis here against the Cardinals as well. And like I said before, it always, from a player standpoint, you kind of get lifted for that series. It's a big series for us as well, and we were always battling for that first spot.
1-2 from Bowden to Beltran, just missed the outside corner. I loved when Jim Edmonds came here. Cub fans booed him. They didn't like him. You're a Cardinal. You're always a Cardinal. And then slowly but surely take a walk in a big spot. He'd hit a game-tying homer. He'd make a catch. By the end of that year, he was a Cub.
He had 18 homers in the 2 months he was with us.
Yeah.
He was hitting like $120 when we got him. I remember Jim Hendry came to me and said, "We got a chance to pick up Edmonds. What do you think?" I'm like, "We should probably pick him up yesterday." I think he's outstanding. I can't stand the guy because I played against him for so long, but man, he got over here. Seriously, he was probably one of the top 2-3 teammates I've ever played with. The guy was tremendous. He was great with the young players. He was great with the veteran players. I mean, he was so smart in center field. Knew the league. Obviously, he'd been in the league for a long time. And what a great pickup we made that year with him. He was a great teammate.
Ready for the 3-2 on the ground and a base hit to make it 6-3. On the play, Cruz will head over to third. Kerry, we'll let you enjoy the rest of the day with your family. Congratulations on a great career, one of the great Cubs of all time, and you're always welcome in our booth. You know that.
Guys, I appreciate it, and thanks again for today.
Thanks, Kerry.
Good to see you, Woody.
Oh, thank you.
Number 34, Kerry Wood. There it is, number 20 up on the top of the roof. You can tell he's comfortable with his decision, you know, and I've talked to people who know him well, and just the fact that he hasn't watched a lot of baseball, I think that's a good sign. You know, he wants to be a dad and a husband full time. Give him a lot of credit for that. Runner's going to hold. Cruz will not try to score.
We had that great shot of Kerry's last game when his son Justin came out to greet him on the field, and Kerry said Justin got a little choked up when he realized where he was and what was going on. And Kerry and I were talking between innings before he went on about how that feels for him to go to Justin's Little League games, and Kerry is just as excited to be there in attendance and be able to watch his son do what it is he loves to do, as much as Justin was excited to be on the field here at Wrigley for Dad's last game. That makes the transition a lot easier.
He's long been one of our favorites. And you know, he was Ronnie's favorite too. He and Ron Santo had such a great relationship. Well, we think about Ronnie every day. Into the Hall of Fame posthumously in July. Gordon trying to stop the bleeding here, already down 3. 2 more on and a 1-2 count on Matt Carpenter. Inside. And that's what he's been doing lately. Pulling Hall of Famers out of the ivy. Andre Dawson. Great commercial.
What year is it?
DeJesus will drift back a few steps, and that'll end the inning. But the Cardinals add some insurance. It's 6-3 St. Louis in the 8th. Time now for a Honda Games summary. Visit your local Chicagoland Honda dealer today. Test drive a 2012 Honda Accord. Big day for Alan Craig, as he has 3 hits, has knocked in a couple. Alfonso Soriano with his 31st home run and his career best 105th RBI. Changes now for the Cardinals. Chambers stays into play right. Carpenter goes to third. Descalzo, that's Daniel Descalzo, now playing second. And the new pitcher's Mitchell Boggs.
Yeah, 6 runs in the ball game for the Cardinals, an offensive outburst. It's the first time in their last 19 games they've scored more than 5 runs in a game.
Boy, they've got one hard throwing reliever after another in their bullpen. Assuming Jason Mott is available after yesterday striking out the side in the 10th. Mott possibly, depending on the score, could be looking at a shot at his 40th save of the year. He has saved the Cardinals' last 5 wins. Boggs has been pretty busy as well. Got him on a high heater at 97. The biggest difference between these two bullpens right now, the Cardinals and the Cubs, because of the velocity, is the Cardinals work vertically in the zone. You're going to see a lot of high fastballs like the one you just saw from Boggs to get Rizzo, whereas a lot of the Cub relievers, Sean Camp, James Russell, Michael Bowden, Bob, they've got to work east to west.
Yeah, inside, outside, put that hitter in a rocking chair, use a sinking fastball to push him off the plate, back away with a slider, mix in an occasional backdoor sinker. Really have to mix it up. When you're rushing it up there in the high 90s, you've got a little bit more margin for error. You just kind of aim for the middle of the plate. And if it happens to stray up in the zone, usually you're going to be okay because of the added velocity.
St. Louis out hitting the Cubs 12-5. Swing and a miss. 1-2. Those are sliders at 90 miles an hour. Pulled in the left for Soriano's third hit.
Wind has turned around a little bit once again. Imagine that. Wind turned around at Wrigley Field. It was kind of blowing from the left field corner toward the right field corner, but now going straight in from right center field, right off the lake.
Double play ball. 4-6-3 inning over. We will head to the ninth. 6-3 Cardinals. Here's Miguel Sokolovic. He'll face a pinch hitter. Shane Robinson for Matt Holliday. Is that right?
That's what I have. Kind of odd.
Checked his swing, fouled it back.
It's not highly unusual for Holliday to come out of the ball game late for defensive reasons, but I don't understand why he wouldn't take the at bat. He was thrown out attempting to steal back in the 7th inning to end that inning. Didn't see any sign of an injury or anything at that particular time, but
makes you wonder.
Yeah, makes you wonder.
One and two. Swing and a miss, strike 3.
We mentioned that stolen base attempt to end the 7th inning. He had walked and then tries to steal second with the head first slide here. Gets thrown out easily by Wellington Castillo, but as I mentioned at the time, it didn't appear that anything had happened on the slide into second base. He stayed in the ball game at that point, but Shane Robinson to take the at bat here leading off the 9th.
They can ill afford to be without him for any length of time. He's been an Iron Man this year. Matt Holliday's played in now 149 of their 153 games. Yadier Molina not in the lineup today because of back spasms suffered late in the game yesterday. 2-0 the count on Craig. don't think Alan Craig looked at it like he had to replace anybody necessarily. He was just trying to stay healthy this year. But man, when he has been healthy, has he been good? Had off-season knee surgery, so he started a month late. Later had a hamstring strain that cost him 14 games on the DL. But as the Cardinals try to replace Albert Pujols and really Lance Berkman, who's barely been a factor this year due to injuries, Alan Craig has stepped into the void. Slugging .543 with an on base of .361. And these are the types of performances, Bob, that if you don't get them, you don't repeat and go back to the playoffs.
You need somebody to step up, yeah, and you never know who exactly it might be that fills that void and gives you those numbers and gives you that production that you're looking for. Thinking back to last year's postseason, Matt Holliday missed the first 3 games of the division series with the Phillies with a tendon problem in his wrist. Did come back to play the rest of the postseason, but it was a day-to-day decision as to whether he could answer the bell and go out and play left field and swing a bat or not, and he ended up missing the first 3 games of the division series. Of course, the Cardinals went way past that.
Craig had a total of about 120 games of experience going into this season. Wouldn't necessarily say he's been their MVP, but with some other guys like Holliday and Beltran, you know, you could kind of count on the production based on their track records. Well, not necessarily for Craig and David Freese. Chambers pinch ran for Freese in the 8th, stayed in to play right, so he'll get the at bat here in the 9th.
A lot of times with the Cardinals, when they have players coming up through their system, it's just a question of where do they fit in. We talked about Tony La Russa, Mike Matheny, very much out of the same mold as far as using players at multiple positions. And needs very versatile guys that can play outfield, play infield, play several different spots on the infield. I think everybody in the Cardinals organization felt that Alan Craig was going to be a good major league player, especially a good major league hitter. It was just a question of where does he fit in on the roster. Well, when you hit the way Alan Craig does, you'll find a place for him.
Would certainly behoove the Cardinals to win and to hang on here late, because their closest pursuer also won today, the Brewers, with a 6-2 win at Washington. So they're now 2 games out as the Cardinals try to push it back to 2.5. Detroit lost the opener 10-4 to Minnesota with the nightcap later. The White Sox are trailing 4-0 to the Angels in the 6th. Even with a loss earlier, if Detroit can win later and have the White Sox lose, there'll be a tie atop the AL Central. Chambers flies out, 2 down. Tough loss for the Phillies, 2-1 at home against the Braves. So they could be 5 back by the end of the day. Arizona tied at Colorado's 3-3 in the 6th. Diamondbacks could jump ahead of the Phillies. They started the day 4.5 out. Descalzo lines to Sapelt. And we'll go to the bottom of the 9th. Cardinals lead by 3. Jason Mott is on, tied for the National League lead. Craig Kimbrell got his 39th save today. So Mott can be the first National Leaguer to get to 40. Chambers goes from right to left, with Shane Robinson now playing right. One strike on Wellington Castillo. Now 1-1. Mott's trying to save 6 consecutive team wins.
His last 2 saves, including yesterday, struck out the side both times. Yesterday it was Barney Rizzo and LaHare to end the ball game.
Look at the whip, 0.94. Pretty solid. Blooped into right center, and it's going to drop. Leadoff single for Castillo. Well, keep going to extras against the Cardinals. The Cubs on this homestand have played 3 extra inning games over the last 4 days.
Jason Mott lookalike.
Mott Lee. He's trying to get the 6th 40 save season in Cardinal history. Jason Isringhausen had 47 in 04. Lee Smith had 3 40+ save seasons, and Bruce Sutter had 45 back in 1984. Sapelt chops it. Mott will take it by himself. 1 away. And we'll get a pinch hitter, Brian LaHare.
Mott, a former catcher, decides why risk a throw. I can beat him to the bag myself, and outruns Dave Sapelt to get the out at first. Castillo moving into scoring position with 1 out.
Once again, we want to thank Joe Posnanski, who writes for SportsOnEarth.com. Check out his work on baseball and other sports, for contributing to our Stats Sunday feature today, writing about defensive statistics on our WGN Baseball blog. You can also follow him on Twitter at @JPosnanski. And we'll wrap up our Stats Sunday feature by going back to the 1969 Baltimore Orioles. That's pretty good, huh?
You hit it, they catch it.
Especially to the left side. I love the Oriole logo. Smiley Bird. Smiling today, though. The Orioles lost at Fenway 2-1. Orioles still just a game back, though, as Oakland beat the Yankees 5-4. Big win for the A's. LaHare grounds to first. 2 outs, runner at third. Last chance now, and it's Valbuena. Oakland is a game ahead of Baltimore in the wild card race, and if the Angels hold on to their lead, they're only a game and a half behind the Orioles for the second wild card spot over in the AL. One pitch. Now 1-1. Pirates leading 8-1 in the ninth, but it may be too little too late in terms of their playoff chances.
It takes some kind of a miracle now for the Pirates to find their way to the top of that wild card race. I think at this point getting back to 500 would be a reasonable goal for the Pirates.
On the corner. 2-2. Tell you, Cruz got fortunate there. I think that hit the umpire, C.B. Buckner.
He had no idea where that ball was. Thought it got through the wickets all the way to the backstop, and it was laying right at his feet the entire time. I'm always amazed with a pitcher like Mott that just throws fastballs. Four-seamers and cutters. Four-seamers and cutters. High 90s, mid 90s. Like Mariano Rivera in that long stretch he's had with the Yankees, throwing basically a cut fastball and not much else. But still getting guys out with regularity.
Will throw a very rare changeup. Maybe 1 out of 50 pitches will be a changeup. Well, it just makes me nervous watching him, though.
He's actually calmed down considerably.
He has.
Yeah,
you're right. Strike 3, and that'll end the ball game. So the Cardinals come into Wrigley Field and take 2 out of 3. Grab their 82nd win to guarantee a winning season. 6-3 the final. We'll be back to Wrigley.